Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. The agenda and minutes were emailed to you, I believe, yesterday. Do you all need a minute to read the minutes? Let me just give you 1 minute to do that, and then we will start with the agenda. I guess we should. Are we officially, should we do roll call and all that official stuff since we're a subcommittee? So, we don't really even have an official list, member list, so perhaps that will be what we will do with a roll call here today.
Susan, you have the list? Or do you have it?
We have a list of 6 persons who volunteered at the August DDEC committee meeting. So I have Jack Scott, Carlene Paul, Sue Davis Killian,
Here.
Dr. Deborah Robinson,
Here.
and Dr. Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus, and Widline Pierre.
Here.
Thank you.
So we have 3 people. Is that who we have?
So
Who,
you said Carlene Paul. I thought Carlene was going to not be an official.
Well, Widline is here, so they both volunteered. So we have 3.
They're the same organization?
Yes.
Okay, so then
Yes.
we're good.
All right.
So then we're good,
Yeah.
even though, because technically that's 5, so we need at least 3.
right, okay. So Carlene and Woodland are the same,
Organization, yeah.
okay,
Correct.
all right. Okay, so I will give you just a moment to read the minutes. They're fairly brief, so in just a minute, then I will entertain a motion to approve minutes. Deborah?
Okay, I think the minutes are really good. I would just like to make one change, and it was something that I know I said I changed late in the meeting. So we would like to explore the following, and then what qualities make for a better teacher. And I initially said belief system of teachers as far as connecting with students unlike themselves. But I later made the point that sometimes teachers who are demographically just like the students are not connecting well. And so I think maybe I would prefer for that to read belief system of teachers as far as connecting with students, including students unlike themselves.
Okay, I will update that.
Thank you.
If everyone's done, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes with, or if there's any more changes. And if not, then a motion to approve the minutes with that update. By the way, at the time I wrote the minutes, I didn't have Sabrina's last name, so I've also updated the minutes to change where it said Sabrina did a motion to put in her last name.
Motion to approve minutes as amended.
Can I have a second?
Lena, that would be you?
Yeah, since we only have 3 people here.
Lena, are you still there?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Going to the agenda. Let me bring that back. Oh, it's up there. I can't read it that far away, so we'll go here. Okay, so let's start with the first thing that we said that, we talked about a lot of things last meeting, and decide that we should actually decide what exactly is our goal of the subcommittee. So I think when we think about goal, it is the end result, not the process of how we get there, but what would be our goal as an end result.
Well, I'll take a first shot at this. I think that the goal would be able to, since we're an advisory committee, so then the goal would be to present school district leadership with a comprehensive view of the impact. Okay, I can't find really good words. The impact of teacher assignment okay, y'all gonna have to really clean this up.
Okay.
Teacher assignment that is not primarily based on the needs of the students and improving their life outcomes.
Okay, I'm going to read that back, and then we can discuss it. I'm still typing. Okay, this is what I got. To present school district leadership with a comprehensive view of the impact of teacher assignments that are not primarily based on the needs of the students and their life outcomes.
Yeah, that's a horrible sentence, but
Yeah, we can tweak. Let's get what we want to say, and then we can grammarize it, if that's even a word. So let me just look at that thing. Impact.
what's not included in there is pointing out the obstacles that are embedded in the system. Okay, so the goal will be,
So can I just interrupt for a second? Dr. Robinson,
yeah,
why don't we just, I think just having a conversation before we try to define it? So,
okay.
I mean, just so.
So, okay, so here's my
the original
conversation.
intent, yeah, so what's the intent that we would want to see before we define
Okay,
exactly?
the problem I'm trying to fix is that the system does not place teachers according to the highest needs of the students. And so that's not, I'm gonna need to drink some more coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and so
Okay.
maybe our goal, if we think about, because I agree, and we even without looking at data, I think we're all going to not be surprised to see that there are going to be teachers that are considered more effective at higher performing schools. So I think maybe what our goal is to present the district leadership with steps that they can take with the end game of having equal teacher quality across all schools. I mean, it is interesting, with Dr. Robinson, when you said that, really looking at the the highest needs of the students. I mean, really, we should have our most effective and our best teachers at the lower socioeconomic income schools, the schools that have more challenges, where students face more challenges. At this point, I think it'd be great just if to get to where it's equal. But I think, you're right in that I think our job here is to figure out what those obstacles are and propose steps that the school district can change to get rid of those obstacles and have a more fair system.
Right. Or whatever the new word for equity is. Whatever that is, right?
So wait,
but,
are we
okay,
not
so
allowed to
I
use
just-
equity?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I just said, what, are we not, did they pass a law saying we can't say equity?
I guess I have to leave and.
Yes. I think at least it's a trigger, right? So I guess, so what I want to add to that, I agree with that sentiment. But I also want to say that because a teacher is outstanding and fabulous in school A does not mean that they have the skill set to be outstanding and fabulous in school B.
Absolutely.
And so that's like a nuance inside of there. And then the other thing is, ultimately, I don't want to talk about schools. I want to talk about students, but I understand we probably need to talk about schools first, because even inside of schools, there's inequitable, or whatever the new word is, distribution of teachers, right? So even inside of schools, the classic story is that you get these these very experienced, highly energetic teachers teaching like AP, right? Or, IB, and then the newbies are teaching the quote regular, whatever that is, right? So ultimately, I would like to get to students, and I really appreciate your point about if we could just get to equal first as a step towards equity. I think that would be tremendous progress compared to where we're starting.
Right. And I agree totally with what you say about just because a teacher is a good teacher at one school doesn't mean there'll be a good teacher at a different kind of school, especially because I would suspect that we'd find that many of the teachers that look great on paper at a good school are good because they have they have the gifted kids and all the high-performing kids, and, you don't have to have the same skill set, so. Oh, yes, Woodland? I'm sorry, how do you say your name? Am I saying it correctly?
It's okay. It's Woodland.
Whitland, okay.
All right. So, Dr. Robinson, are we looking into like a professional development program for all teachers? I guess where we can implement to improve more of the teacher training, and maybe like and just in Title I school, or because you mentioned just because one teacher may be like highly effective in one setting doesn't mean they can be highly effective in all settings. Is that what we are looking for?
Well, okay, so you asked me, so I'm going to say it's premature to answer that because, I'm sure somewhere along the line, professional development is going to be included in recommendations, but right now, I think we're trying to get there. And I certainly don't think that that's all, right? The school district has professional development up the wazoo. We could have a whole nother subcommittee on the I'm gonna just call them problems with the system of professional development. So I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think that some of the things we talked about before that I saw in the notes, like, well, first off, what is a good teacher? Like, we need to have that
Mhm.
conversation, right?
Mhm.
And then how do they match teachers to students? You know, like, okay, so like a easy part of that would be, is the teacher a linguistic match to most of her students? So if I'm a math teacher and I have a classroom that has a number of Creole speaking students, if I can explain math in English and then flip to Creole, then that's a good match. You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to have that conversation too. So I think we have to explore um, the problem we're trying to fix and the obstacles to great as we would see it before we outline what the repairs are.
Right. I think that's where, because as I'm reading what the goal, you know, um, I know we all know the problem, but it's how do we put it into perspective in writing, and that's what I'm trying to figure it out, so that way we can do the wording. All right. So basically, all right. Can you read again what Dr. Robinson had said?
So
Just so
yes, or actually first, Keith, did you want to say something first?
Yeah. You know, Dr. Robinson mentioned earlier, she talked about the obstacles to making something happen. So if we're leaning towards trying to get high-quality teachers, the best teachers who have a proven record into the hardest to staff schools, for lack of better words, you know, I've been here 30 years, and it's always been an issue. And Dr. Robertson herself from the school board, a tough nut to crack to make it happen. So I just want to be realistic that maybe we look at the problem and the challenge differently of retention strategies, perhaps at harder to staff schools, and ways to support, so that we're looking at it maybe backwards to try to solve a problem that might be more realistic on potential solutions, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So are we doing a hand raising meeting? Or are we just talking? Just
I
tell me.
think we can just talk. There's only 3 of us here. Be a
Okay,
lot faster.
so I think to Mr. Oswald's point, I think that could be, you know, one of the, in my opinion, one of the things that we look at. But in terms of teacher retention, but I also want to make the point. So when we talk about the qualities for a better teacher, some of this stuff, you know, are proxies. Like experience, really, honestly, is a proxy. Like, yes, it tends to be that more experienced teachers are, quote, better teachers, right? However, you also have in some schools where you have teachers with a lot of experience who are parked there, right? And they're like hiding out there and they're burnt out. And I'm, you know, I'm using kind of harsh words for sake of clarity, but then you get a newbie teacher who's all, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. And the challenge with them would be to keep them from burning up their enthusiasm trying to save the world, right? And the other thing is, I think teacher certification is a proxy, right? I mean, sometimes we have to use proxies. I live in the real world, but I just want to make it clear that if a teacher has 20 years of experience, it does not necessarily mean that they're going to be a better connector and a better educator than the teacher that's got, 3 years of experience, for example, right?
100%.
But I want to make sure we're starting with students. in this conversation? Like, what's best for students? I mean, I think we're assuming that, but to Whitline's a point about what we're writing down, I think I don't have the words. I haven't had enough coffee, but it has to start with students. The problem I'm hoping that we solve is, so the whole goal of education in my worldview is to improve life outcomes for the students and their offspring, quite honestly, right? And so in order to do that, then they need to have this high quality education. In order to do that, they need to have the right information presented to them by, and they have to connect, they have to be engaged in their own education. And in my opinion, 3/4 of the battle is getting the student to engage in their own education. And a lot of times that's what makes the teacher great, is not because they have advanced degrees, not because they had 20 years of experience, but because they have something that causes the student to connect and engage with the subject matter, right? Now, maybe they learned that. Maybe that's part of what happens with experience. Maybe experience teaches you how to do that. I don't know, but I'm just trying to tease those things out. But I just want to make sure we start with the students. I'm going to mute myself because I feel like I'm over participating.
Well, there's only 3 of us, so you better participate. Yeah, I agree totally with what you're saying. And I think, though, now we're starting to get away from the goal and into the what we're going to look at and how we're going to look at it. So what if we made it really simple and said something like, and again, we'll talk something like, present school district leadership with steps to overcome the inequity in teacher quality between schools.
Can I offer maybe a friendly amendment, even though I'm not a committee member, but, so to Dr. Robinson's point, so students, if we're starting with students need to have teachers who have the strategies to address their academic and behavioral needs in the hardest staffed schools. So if we're starting with the students, what do the students need? They need educators who can really meet their needs, right?
Right.
When they're
And
wherever they're-
interest.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Woodland.
I was gonna say, and their abilities too, and interest.
Maybe abilities to support their interests or.
Right.
Oh, Sabrina's show.
Hi, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't get the link.
Oh, Sabrina.
Yes.
How about then something like, I like what Keith just said with the focus on the students. Present school district leadership with the steps to ensure that students have teachers that have the strategies to address their academic and emotional needs at hard-to-staff schools. By the way, I changed behavioral to emotional, just figured that was a little wider ranging.
I like including emotional needs.
I'm sorry, what?
I like including emotional needs. I like the
Okay.
word emotional.
Just don't put social in front of it, then we get a trigger word.
Yeah.
So,
What a world we're living
Could you
in, huh?
read that again?
Present school district leadership with the steps to ensure that students have teachers that, with the strategies to address their academic and emotional needs at hard-to-staff schools. I also like that we're, instead of saying equity at all schools, that we're talking about specifically hard-to-staff schools, because really that's what we're here about, right? I mean, that's, so,
Guys, because I'm kind of jumping in late, but I know that Dr. Robinson had mentioned something about like language or cultural needs of students. are we including that?
I think if we keep it generic, because it's, when we say the strategies to address their academic and emotional needs, and we could add, I mean, probably we could have 10 words there, right? So we want to kind of keep it generic in deciding what is necessary to address their academic and emotional needs. And language would probably be something that comes under the academic needs, or actually maybe both.
I see. So we're just leaving it more general to include it in those terms. I see.
What do you think, Dr. Robinson?
Well, I think so. I think I heard a hand come up. Is there a hand up before I talk?
Yes, me.
Okay, go ahead. And since we have so few people, we're just kind of talking, so.
Okay.
Just butt in, and if nobody lets you talk, then raise your hand.
All right. All right. So, and what if we change instead of step more, since we're trying to keep it generic, maybe educational practices or maybe educational step? Because I'm thinking of step in so many ways. Or maybe read it again.
That's true, we can change steps. Currently, what we're working with right now is present the school district leadership with the steps to ensure students have teachers with the strategies to address their students' academic and emotional needs at hard-to-staff school.
Right. So then
Schools.
maybe present to the school district educational practices.
But I think I think you're getting
Recommendations.
into what comes
Recommendations.
after this general statement.
Okay.
'Cause you're
So
gonna
I'm
get
jumping
into-
ahead.
That's what I think. Y'all can correct me, but
Yeah, because you're going to get into recommendations. And remember, it's got to be recommendations for consideration.
Right.
So I think, yeah, the meat and potatoes will come in the recommendations of what that looks like.
Okay.
And I think once you start thinking through that, that may change slightly the words we use in the overall goal.
All right. Because I was just thinking like exactly like what you just said. Like what will be like the step? How will the step look like? So then I thought maybe having a more concrete word.
I actually kind of
That's fine, we
like
can go with
steps because practices sound so willing, blah, 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 kind of, it's like, oh, we're adopting practices. I don't know. Maybe this is me from the outside, having heard words, but like, I think very concretely, like, okay, here is one thing that you can do that we think, this is a problem, and here's what you can do about it.
Is that strategy then?
Okay. Strategies.
Strategies, that would be fine.
I like
There you go.
Yeah.
will somebody put the current statement in the chat or put it on the screen? Because, I need paper.
Yep.
Like,
Let's see.
Are you
I have it here.
Hey.
Could
in a
I
Google Doc by chance?
just say it again and then,
not?
because, and we're not locking this in, right? Because as we work, we can go back and tweak this, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We're just giving ourselves a framework right now.
I could join the meeting and then,
You could join the meeting and then share your screen.
yeah. Let me, I have it on, I'm just taking notes on my own computer, but.
Just read it again, because I
Okay,
have a thought, but I want to.
yeah, no, I'm like you too. This is why I'm sitting here writing the whole time at my computer. I need to see things too, so. Okay. The goal is to present school district leadership with the strategies to ensure that students have teachers with the strategies to address their students' academic and emotional needs at hard-to-staff schools.
Okay, so, I mean, I think that that's something we can start with, even though I'm going to push back on it. So, or pieces of it. So, one, I want to make sure that we show them the obstacles. Now, that might be embedded in what you're saying, right? Oh, thank you. But I think if if we just presented recommendations without saying, here's the problem and here's the fix, then they miss the point, right? Because a lot of people won't see the embedded inequities, the embedded systemic reasons for inequities, right? So I think we need to show them the obstacles too. But the thing that that's troubling me with this is, what is the definition of academic and emotional needs, right? And then the other thing is hard to staff schools. Now, if the group says that's what we want to focus on, fine. But I just want to highlight the point that there are inequities inside of schools, including affluent schools. And it's not a new problem, right? Where some children in affluent schools are treated like almost like the leftover children, right? And so, again, I would like to try to focus on students, but I understand we have to go through the schools, so to speak. Like we have to address the schools before we can address the students, at least in this thought process for me. But more importantly, right now is the addressing their academic and emotional needs is, I don't like underserved either, but I just need to drink more coffee, y'all. Maybe I'll be more amenable after another cup. But the thing is this, part of the problem that exists is everybody has biases, and people will look at students and have different goals in their minds for different students, and therefore their academic and emotional needs, they would think they're met because they have a different goal in mind. And I don't know, I hope I'm making sense. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm trying to
sorry.
say it
I
nicely.
think you're making sense. I think, good morning, everybody. I think it does make sense because you have to make sure that the students are taken into consideration when you develop any education plan. The goal is to educate students, to give them the best education possible without considering the students. What are you really doing?
But wait, but the point is, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is the goal. So look, let me just say this, and I'm sorry, I swear I'm gonna try to quit talking. I've had a lot of conversation with people over time about high stakes accountability, right? Now, honestly, I hate the high stakes part, but I love having standards. See, I remember when there weren't any clear standards that were shared with the world, right? So now at least you know that in 6th grade, this is what you're supposed to know and be able to do, right? For everybody. As before, it was like really, really clear. Oh, he's from a single parent home. He lives in a bad neighborhood. That's good enough for him. Okay. And so here, what I don't want to do, and I don't know that really, really it has to be addressed in this opening statement, but I just want to be clear that when we have a broad statement like that without a specific target, that it leaves room for people to have that kind of interpretation. And even with the standards, it still exists, right? It still exists where people have lower expectations for some students than others, even with standards, right? And so I just Okay, I'm gonna make up stuff and say that we would have the strategies to prepare students to be successful. Or let's just talk about what we're gonna talk about later. To all students be able to qualify for bright futures. I mean, I get that's probably not the target we're setting here, but I'm saying a target, and I'm gonna let it go now. I just want to make the point about even with good goals and nice words, the system will still I'm gonna create a new word, under expect for some students. And that's what I'm hoping that we don't allow to happen in our conversation.
Yeah, I agree, Dr. Robinson. And I think, when we think about teachers that connect with their students and teachers that are really meeting their students' academic and emotional needs, that is part of that. That is not under expecting for those students, right? I mean, I think that's a huge part of addressing their academic and emotional needs. I've been taking a few little notes from what you said. If we want to expand on our goal statement.
Before you expand, can I just give
Yes.
my 2 cents?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson's clearly very visionary. I just want to think about how much of the elephant are we going to bite into and eat, and that we don't bite off more than we can chew, or that the system can take, so that if we want to see some actual realistic results, that we are thoughtful in that respect as well.
We're gonna eat the whole elephant, but we're gonna do one of them at a time. Okay.
So
I
can we
love
just take
that.
one bite?
Okay, I want to start with the left ear.
Okay, I'll take the ear. But all I'm saying is I want to, just think we need to be clear, or I want us to understand how even, like, yes, academic and emotional needs are part of getting to this place called a great education, right? But we need to clearly target it, because the system will sort children even using those words, right?
Correct.
there
But
a
what
way
I've
to
learned over
look-
time is that when you're dealing with neighborhoods with concentrated generational poverty, racial inequities, and the majority of those kids are at one school, and Dr. Robinson, you taught me this throughout the years, those challenges at those schools, and I've been a principal at a couple of those, and I've been working at schools that have less of those issues. Yes, there's inequities in some of those other schools, but the hill to climb is much steeper when you're working with the majority of students are coming from concentrated poverty, as well as generational. Those challenges are just much deeper. And yes, we have inequities across all schools, but again, I think I just recommend being a little bit more strategic in some of the recommendations as you work through this.
Well, one thing, because I kind of agree with Dr. Oswald in that they're
Mr., but that's okay.
I just think of you that way.
Thank you.
Keith.
Yeah.
That in a way, I think that we're going to find that the obstacles are going to be really different when we're looking at getting teachers in the hard-to-staff schools, and then looking at how teachers are assigned to different classes within the schools. I think that those are probably going to be different obstacles and different solutions. So what if we had a goal and then kind of like a sub-goal or a follow-on goal? Because I don't want to lose sight of that, because of the individual teachers at different classes. Because I think as we're going through data and stuff, we will probably find some things that will make us, think back to that. But I also do agree with, I think, this whole committee came about with the thought of the inequity amongst teacher assignments between schools. And I'd kind of like to take that bite and and swallow and digest that one first, and then look at the follow-on.
I agree. I was going to say if there's a way that we could possibly look at it both as we move forward with this process, just leave it on there because I do think that it's important, but this way we could focus on one piece at a time.
And I think we could also, I added in what you said, Dr. Robinson, about the recommendations will include the obstacles along with the corresponding solutions. I mean, to me, that's kind of a given, but I think it's good to state it explicitly. That, you know, I would assume that for each solution we come up with, we would present what the systemic obstacles are and then what we think could be done about those obstacles.
Listen, that's good. And let me just be clear. So if we go back to the elephant analogy, my point is we could just tackle the ear, so to speak, right? And then, but at the end, it needs to say, but we are acknowledging that there's, you know, the right front, the right rear, the left front, the leg, you know, that there are other things that play into the total picture. This is just the one that we're addressing. I'm not trying to say we should address all of it. I'm just trying to say that there are a lot of issues. And if we're going to, for example, if we're going to narrow and say we're going to address the inequity in staffing hard to staff schools, then I just request that there's a bullet at the end of the whole thing that says we also understand that there are inequities inside of schools that are not addressed in this report. That's all.
Okay. And to tell the truth, I think some of the solutions we come up with may address that. Like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, and I have no idea if this will even be in. But, you know, for example, there's a incentive for teachers right now to I think they get money for every AP or ACE exam their students pass, right? So that right there is an incentive to not teach those lower classes, right? So I would think that some of the solutions we come up with for addressing inequities between schools is also going to apply within individual schools. So let me read what I think we have and see if we want to adopt this as our official goal. The goal is to present school district leadership with, I think you put this in the, did you type this in the notes or the chat? Did you type the thing in the chat? Do you want to read what you have?
The goal is to present school district leadership with the strategies. My mic isn't on. Sorry. The goal is to present school district leadership with the strategies to ensure that students have teachers with the strategies to address their students' academic and emotional needs at hard-to-staff schools.
And then I was thinking we could add another sentence to that. The recommendations will include the obstacles along with the corresponding solutions. The other suggestion I had is changing the word teachers with the strategies, changing that to teachers with the skills. And the reason I think of that is, like, I've had plenty of teachers that have been taught strategies but don't use them or don't have the skill to use them. So I just thought maybe we could change to teachers with the skills to address their students instead of strategies.
I agree. I like skills.
Just on corresponding solutions can be like recommended solutions.
Yeah, okay, with the corresponding recommended solutions. Okay. Do you want me to read that as we have it final, and then we can take a vote?
Yes, I'm sorry, just one question. Would there be a way to maybe put that like sub goal in and just kind of say that we're going to be looking at data to like, correlate with it or see how we could work on it, just to kind of leave it tentative, like we will be looking at that?
Yeah, I took in notes here. A follow-on goal is to do the same at lower performing classes in all schools. I don't know if that lower performing classes is a good term. I was just kind of typing on the fly.
Perfect. Thank you for writing that down. I don't know if lower performing classes is
Is there a
the
better
right
term for that? Anybody? Dr. Robinson?
thing. Oh, she just got back. Dr. Robinson, we were just talking about the follow-up goal. And could you please read it again?
The follow-on, again, this isn't worded how we want to, but the follow-on is to do the same for students in lower performing classes in all schools. Or I was just changing on the fly. That what I had originally is to do the same as the goal, to do the same for lower performing classes in all schools.
Within.
And I
Okay,
don't,
so you guys are saying that you want to take on the inequities inside of a school as well?
well, I have it written as a follow-on goal
Oh,
because I
okay,
want to
gotcha.
keep it in the keep it in our mind, but it's not the main goal. But I think, again, as we do this, we're going to find that some of our strategies will apply.
Yeah, because as we look at the data, I'm sure that we're gonna start seeing some patterns.
Yeah, I just asked that we not use whatever that was, lower class.
Yeah, I said, I typed it on the fly, I said, I'm sure there's a better term than lower performing classes.
I actually like it. I can't think of a better term right now.
Lower level
Yeah.
classes?
Lower level.
Well, I think we're talking about, like what Dr. Robinson, what you had said about, within a school, you have your great teachers teaching your AP and ACE classes, and then, some of your less great teachers teaching just the plain old regular class. Although I agree, lower performing makes it sound like it's really low performing
Or
when,
anything is bad, in my opinion. It just, maybe something like, I don't know if you want to say class or students, but if you're going to talk about the classes, then I don't know, and this is a messed up term, but non-accelerated is what comes to mind. But again, if I'm trying to get to the students, it might be something like students with more challenges or something.
okay. How about, right this.
So like lower level classes,
How about if we say that,
Lower anything, please.
not lower. Okay.
what if we said, like you said, focusing on the students instead, our follow-on goal would be to do the same for students with more challenges in all schools, or regardless of what school they're in.
Yeah, something along those lines, I think. What's Mr. Oswald looking like? Is he twisting up in a knot?
Would we, no, question, would we have to talk about what challenges the students are facing? Do we have to specify if we use that in the statement?
I don't think for just a goal. We're just kind of doing a goal.
Could I even say like across schools or within schools? Because that's, to my understanding, that's kind of what we're doing. We're looking at, the underrepresented schools and within specific schools.
Okay.
Say throughout the school district.
Yeah.
So something like the follow-on goal would be the same goal for students with more challenges within all schools.
And I think maybe like the main goal could say across schools, because we're looking at multiple schools. I'm just thinking like data wise, how I
Yeah.
would look at it.
I guess that's why I think it should be a follow-on goal, because I think when we're looking at systemic challenges or systemic obstacles, there's going to be a lot more for those between schools as opposed to within schools. I think they're two separate problems with
Yeah,
some
that's what I'm
overlap.
saying. You have to look at them separately because they're two separate data points, right? I
Exactly.
think that within the school would be more of the follow-up goal, and across school is more of the main goal.
Right, exactly. Okay, so it is 5 minutes till the DDEC meeting is going to start, so we should wrap it up, give everybody a potty break. So let me read again what we have and see for our main goal and see if we want to vote on that. The goal is to present school district leadership with strategies to ensure that students have teachers with the skills to address their students' academic and emotional needs at hard-to-staff schools. The recommendations will include the obstacles along with the corresponding recommended solutions. So
With that,
is that, are we in agreement on that?
Okay with that.
I could agree on that.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve unless there's more discussion?
I'll
Motion,
yeah.
go ahead.
I'll do the motion to approve.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, and,
No, I'm opposed.
oh, okay.
I couldn't unmute quick enough to, when you asked for comments, but I'm just want to register my opposition because I need to sit with it a little bit more, but the whole thing about the academic and emotional needs without specifying some kind of goal troubles me, just because I've dealt with the system long enough and know how that'll be misused. But again, I know we're gonna be open to tweaking as we go along.
All right. And, we can revisit the beginning of next meeting, if we, like you said, everyone has time to sit with this and think about it a little bit. And we also have some data that was sent to us, so I'll ask everybody to review the data that was emailed yesterday afternoon before the next committee meeting. And with that, do we need a motion to adjourn? Yeah, okay, I have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
To adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, see you all in a few minutes at DDEC.